Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending today's webinar. And could be more excited to do it together with Koole Bolina from ATI and Chris Fraser at TLS Motorworks, just outside Atlanta in Chamblee, Georgia. It's an interesting topic. We just spoke at, and we're together at the ATI Partner Showcase. And we were looking at new customer trends, right? How you engage, manage, and service customers' vehicles. And we looked at, is there a way to use modern technology to drive additional profit lift? So reach out to ATI, great partner. Jim Silverman's awesome. Got to know Koole Bolina through his customer signing out, the ATI members, right? And asked me to do a webinar just to share this with the audience on today's call. So I'd love to do that. Koole, love, we have ATI members and non-members on a call. I'd love to introduce yourself and ATI, and then we'll move forward to Chris.
Sure. So like Mark said, I'm Executive Coach Koole Bolina here at ATI, one of 34 coaches that we have on board, including both what I'm involved with, which is the mechanical side, and we have collision coaches as well. ATI's directive is to be the best coach we can be for our members. It's not just sessions that members have with us, but all the partners we work with, i.e. Facepay and Mark Hale, other partners that may be accountants and lawyers and so forth. We provide one-step coaching, beginning till end, meaning that has to do with budgetary items, financial stuff. Sometimes we get in the nitty-gritty of internal issues that have to do with personnel and so forth. So we like to think that we have an overall best package for our members that join us. So that's ATI in a nutshell.
Koole, every time I interact with a coach like yourself, I learn something. So not just sharing members, but I look forward to learning during this webinar, and it's just great to have you on the call. And what I appreciate about ATI is, the coaches and the partners, the way they contribute is with the members. It's a community. Everybody just learns and shares and grows, right? Everybody is contributing something, right? And that's what I love about it. It's just a community that you've all built, right? And I could be happier to have Chris on the call today, who's one of the members that you coach, Koole. So it's great to see both together. I enjoyed the prep calls and just how you interact. It just shows, how shops can thrive in your environment. But Chris, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Chris Fraser. I'm in Atlanta. I'm one of the owners of TLS Motorworks. We're a Japanese and hybrid specialty shop in Atlanta. And like Mark said, Koole is our coach. He is the best coach. And we're also partnered up with Facepay for payment processing. And it's been an awesome experience working both with Mark's company as well as ATI.
It's just great working together, and you've been on board since the super conference in March.
I have.
It's just been a great ride since then. Look forward to hearing from you how you're using it in your shop as we go through the webinar. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Great to have you both. And Koole, maybe back to you, because we're going to be talking about profit lift, right? And anyone knows Facepay, right? With direct bank payments, we have a contribution to that. But I know it's such a big part of ATI and how you measure success and working with shops like TLS Motorworks. Could you talk a little bit how you measure profit lift, expenses, revenue, and so forth that you would coach shop regularly on?
So when a member first joins ATI, there's a couple process that we do to establish where they are currently. Top line sales, being discerning with their P&L, meaning sometimes the arrangement is not ideal, and we might have to change categories to be above the line or below the line. And once we get that straightened out, then we clearly identify where the gross profit dollars land, what their fixed expenses are, and then on to their net operating profit. At ATI, we have percentages that we're looking for out of each shop. Obviously, it can't be dollars because everybody's revenue is different in volume of what they create. So going by proportions, which is the percentages, makes it so we have a level playing field that we all move towards the same profitability goals or beat what we have in place.
Meet and exceed, right? So
that's true.
How often would you and Chris meet a month? Right now, how often you
Uh,
review profits?
So coach and member sessions are done weekly, 52 weeks out of the year, except for whatever nuances we may have calendar-wise. Of that, many different topics are discussed. Profitability is checked up on every so often. We have a portal that our members update. Chris updates weekly, and then we kind of see where things land. And once we start seeing a trend, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks in, we start saying, okay, for the better or worse, what's happening here? If it's a win, what can we do to repeat it? If it's not going the right direction, what can we do to change that?
This is something interesting you just brought up, because I recently learned about it from you. Is I'm aware of the ATI member portal, but every member gets their own profit portal that they can look at how you're measuring in results. I think that's pretty awesome, right? Just put it right in front of them. That's pretty cool. And Chris, how often would you take a look at that?
Weekly, definitely a couple times a week.
Mhm.
At the beginning of the week is when we put all of the numbers in there to see how we landed the week before. And then our meeting with Coolies in the middle of the week. It's on a Wednesday, so we review it again then. So about twice a week.
That's staying on top of your business. So that's pretty awesome.
You have to stay successful.
You do, right? You can't fall behind. It's hard to catch up, right? You got to stay ahead of it. Cool. One thing we talked about is in profit lift, right? Direct banking saves on credit card fees. And it's interesting is you associated that rather than gross and a net profit. Could you talk a little bit more about that for the people on the call?
So credit card merchant fees is a fixed expense. It's not something that is directly related to the sales you have revenue coming in or cost of goods to offset those sales and figure out what your true gross profit dollars are. Because it's an expense, I don't want to say it's thought of after the fact, but it's still something you want to track. I look at credit card merchant fees the same way I would look at a landscaping company, janitorial services, uniforms. Well, actually, not true. Uniforms are also a cost of goods because they're incurred by having your employees there. But you want to do the best you can to limit what you're, so to say, losing out the back door after you already have revenue coming in through the front door. And so trying to figure out specifically the merchant fees, what's the best path to take and reduce those costs is a topic of discussion that comes up pretty often.
Leakage is everything, right? You work so hard to have income and revenue, right? You don't want it leaking out. So and maybe that's a good lead in there, Chris, because if you would processes everything, right? Understanding that customer from the minute they walk in the door or scheduling before that through their service, right? And then furnishing their vehicle when it's done, right? And Chris, when we talked, you had a great process in place, right? For the way you manage customers, which we all believe, right? You get better returns if your customers understand the service that you're providing, right? So what I'd like to do is ask Matthew is here to do a poll for us on DVI, which is some shops use to manage process. And while we're doing this poll, I was wondering, Chris, if you could share a little bit about the processes that you have for customer engagement.
Yeah, so the process for when a customer kind of calls in to schedule an appointment, we have a process on how we go over the digital inspection, how it's going to be delivered, what's going to be on it. The other thing we do is also let the customer know that they're going to be getting a message from Facepay and what it is, what it does, and how it helps them beforehand. So when that message gets delivered to them via text, within probably 30 minutes to an hour of us putting them in as a customer, they'll know what to expect and what to do. By doing both of those things, not only has it helped sales, but it has also helped with credit card processing fees. But kind of like back to what you said, Mark, it's just a process we do each time.
Gotcha. And how many of your customers you feel respond to DVI? Is it net positive? Majority of them?
99%.
Yeah.
I mean, it's huge. Yeah, when people can see pictures, descriptions, estimates, notes, They feel like less likely that we're trying to get over on them. It's transparency is everything in this business right now.
All about transparency, right?
It
Like
is.
managers like before DVI, right? Not getting an estimate to improve, right? Or some paper estimate where notes are scribbled on it, right? It's just hard to imagine. So about how long from when a customer walks in to getting an estimate, about how long does it take for you to furnish that to them?
So on like a basic service, oil change, brakes, flushes, stuff like that, we try to have an estimate to them within about 30 to 45 minutes, depending on obviously the mileage. Higher mileage car is going to take longer. And then any diagnostic work is going to take probably anywhere from 4 to 8 hours, depending on how much diag needed to be done.
I'm surprised it's that quick, right? If for a basic service, you're able to turn that around pretty quickly. So just shows you're efficient about getting your pictures in, writing up the estimate, and getting it to them. So
sure, but that also goes back to a process for the technicians, right? We have a process for the
yeah.
customers, and then we also have a process that the technicians have to follow, which Koole has helped out with tremendously, getting that streamlined from probably an hour before we got Koole involved to about 30 minutes on average now.
There you go, right? Working together results. It's interesting you said it because Facepay, we're so involved as we're getting into workflow and customer communications or engagement, but you need the back of the house working in tandem with you, right? They have to go together. So that's an interesting observation. So what I did, we just ran this poll. What's interesting, 2/3 of the attendees, right? Actually, the same as you, they get higher repair order amounts, right? Their ticket values go up, right? Using DVI. About 1/3 of them said they're primarily using it for communications out to customers, right? And that means there's still work in there, some stretch we can do to increase profits, right? And it's something I hope they'd take away and learn from, right? And then you mentioned you script out each step of your workflow that includes DVI. So.
We do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the check-in process on the phone is scripted out. When the customer comes in, that's also scripted out. And the main part of that is for them to know exactly what the DVI entails and how to read it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also a script at the end for exit scheduling, satisfaction, and then hopefully getting a Google review if they're happy with our work. They know what to do once they get that text message from us asking for a Google review.
And are they happy with their work?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the DVI has made everything, right? It's back in the day before DVIs, you give somebody a $3,000 ticket and they're a little weary, but now with pictures and descriptions and transparency, they're thanking us at the end.
Mm-hmm. These are the things I just gave a talk there at the ATI Partner Showcase on customer delight. It's interesting. That's where the thank you comes from, that they understand what's going on. And Koole, you're on a call today. I remember doing a call earlier with Kim Hickey, right? Another excellent ATI executive coach. What was interesting is, Chris, I talked with her that any customer coming in, repair is not fun, right? It's an unforeseen expense. Takes time out of their day and all the hassle coming in. And then they made the comment, they always cost more than you think. And she made this comment, Kim Hickey did, again, ATI coach, that no, it doesn't, because you're setting expectations. From the minute they walked in the door, you letting them know what you see. And you may not find everything, but you're going to tell them and inform them with DVI and pictures and way you communicate. And that's going back to process. And she says, no, it doesn't cost more than they expect. They already know, right? And you're just helping them manage that. And that's where that thank you comes from. I think that's pretty cool, right? So it's what we all want. So maybe shifting gears a little bit to extend that is, when I was at the ATI Partner Showcase, I talked about something, you just touched on this value and its customer effort score, right? If I could ask Matthew to show the slide, I showed it at the Partner Showcase. Because you touched on where it started is satisfaction, CSAT, right? Is reviews, right? At the end of the service, will you review us so that others can appreciate the quality of service that you got and understanding it was a value for you? That satisfaction score with reviews. Something we'd be interested in is net promoter score, which you tie to referrals, right? Is would someone recommend TLS Motorworks to another to one of their friends to come and bring their vehicle to you for servicing, right? That net promoter score. But the one that's visceral that we're getting to learn on top of all of that is where your thank you came from, is this customer effort score, right? Was it easy to schedule with you? I know online you can book appointments with you. When you came in for effort, do they understand what's going on? Is it hard for them? You're pushing information out rather than them have to try to call you back, right? You have texting as part of that. And then you make it easy to pick up, right? This customer effort score is really visceral, right? It gets right in the heart, because if you make it hard on them to do any of this, you could have these great Google reviews, but it's hard for their next person to schedule with you or get their vehicle in. Right? That's the effort. They want places now they can bring it to and trust your service, you're going to get it done. So we just talked about customer effort as the next leading way to measure your customers, if they're going to repeat high value and a level of service you're providing to them. That's what we're all in it for, is working customers in their vehicles, right? So we get in and we learn about the scores. There are some key new contributors. Right, you touched on the last wave towards that was DVI, which is an understanding to minimize effort, right? They know what they're getting, setting expectation. But now, do you make it easy to drop off and pick up with a drop box? Do you understand the estimates of approval when they bring in their vehicles? And then a big one coming on right now, and I know we talked about, is text to pay, combined with online banking. What's interesting is online banking continues to grow momentum, right? About 65% of the population is connected to bank to make it easy. So I know a text to pay, it touches on customer effort. So I just want to ask you, Chris, if you're engaged with getting payments before customers come in for after hours or express checkout, right? When they have the vehicle ready for them. Do you do these things because it minimizes their effort, makes it better for you, gives you this thank you? So I'm going to talk a little bit about customer effort tied to this experience and workflow, right? Do you have a Dropbox or express checkout? Are you looking at text to pay?
We do. So, if I ever have a customer on the fence about something, on the fence about scheduling an appointment or coming in, I try to let them know, one, about our warranty, text to pay, DVI, contactless drop off and pickup. So they know those options are there. From when the customer drops off, we have a night drop box. They're already in the system. They know what to expect. We text them the link. They approve the work or decline it, whatever they like. We do the work. We text them that the car is done. If they'd like to use after hours pickup, that's also an option. And generally with after hours pickup, that's when the text to pay really comes in, because one, we're not having to sit here, an advisor isn't having to stay late, and then the customer can pick up the car at their own convenience. So the text to pay thing has been huge, especially with COVID.
I have to share, I just dropped off my car 2 days ago, but I got to make it in by 4:30 to pick it up. And I'd rather get it at 8 tonight when I'm done with my errands, right? But I've got to be there by 4:30 today to go get it, right? And that's this whole thing, is providing these features, right, for convenience to customers, right? And making them aware it's available. That's why they're going to choose to go to one shop or another, right? They've been burned before, they drop it off and can't get it. Now you're stuck in some process trying to get it. You touch on it earlier, you communicate, the better. So you have a pickup key box outside?
We do, yeah. We have like 4 little, they look like mailboxes with codes on them. So once the customer pays, we text the customer instructions, a box number and a code, and they can just access it after hours. It's probably one of the best systems we put in, and it complements text to pay very well.
And it's so convenient, right? Back to effort, customers can get what they need it. There's a poll up right now about different types of services that shops can offer. What I'm surprised by, and Koole, you talked to multiple members, right, is only about half of them I talked to have a night pickup box, right? Put their keys in, right? And that's one of the top things you can do for customers right now, right? Retrieving their vehicle. So on that, we routinely have shops ask us because they want to get our text to pay be up and running in about 15 minutes because they're customers that want their vehicle before the weekend. It's done Friday and they can't get in that day, right? Nothing worse than having it done and holding their vehicle until a Monday and then come into your shop, right? That's the other side of visceral pain. That customer's hurting, right? So they're not happy. So when you can see this poll right now, you have lock boxes, express checkout, text to pay. So anything I haven't talked about that's on top of all of that makes customer effort lower, right? Makes it easier for them.
I would say right now, everybody should understand that only two reasons that folks visit you are convenience and trust. And right now we're talking about convenience as a whole. I would say about 10 years ago, there was a stat that showed how people purchased or do different transactions, and it switched from home desktop computers to laptops to tablets to phones. And there was a progression of how it's going to transition from one medium to the rest. Right now, phones are the place to be. I have not seen an update of that survey, but if you don't have a way for someone to make adjustments or do things like DVIs that are sent on the fly, you're going to be left behind. One thing I want to point out about DVIs as a whole is the impact it has for folks that haven't seen one before. And anytime someone picks up a new SMS system, shop management software system, and DVIs are integrated or it's third party, it's a different company altogether, that has an impact. Why? Because it's convenient now. Chris said, we would do it for transparency. That's very big because a person is very hard to, especially since AROs are at an all-time high right now because inflation is directly related to that. There are folks that don't trust you. The other factor, the other reason they buy from you, if they're going to grip onto their wallet harder because they haven't been to you before, or you haven't expressed concern to them on a human level, they may not move forward. So if you're not with the times, the next time you're at a dentist office, we've all been to McDonald's and then we realize that no one's at the counter, but they have this huge TV they use as a pad where we sit there and chew stuff. Yeah, they did it to offset their overhead and their payroll, but to a certain extent, the complaint about fast food as a whole is, well, I ordered it one way, they never get it right. So I'm hoping that this also helps that situation. So as you go and navigate your life at other retail businesses, think about what you don't have and bring those on board.
You both nail it, because Koole is having lunch with a friend the other day, scheduling their dental appointment. And it was so painful because there's no online scheduling. They had a call and then they needed to move it and call back. And there's nothing easy about even making an appointment to go there, right? Much less all the service that's there. And I'm like, you just nailed it, right? This is the whole thing about customer effort. And that's where they're choosing to go places, right? And they're learning that your quality is good, right? Because we go through and gets routine maintenance, vehicles generally better, but it's learning to trust you that you're going to provide that service that they don't need to come back for. You can get it right. And then you make it really easy to get in there, right? So you just Koole, that's great insight, right? Convenience and trust. In this poll we just put up, 2/3 of the respondents have a lockbox and express checkout. 2/3 have text to pay. It's interesting, a third has none of the above, right? If I encourage people to walk away, is go get a pickup lockbox, right? Go get a 4-pack like you have, Chris. Allow them to retrieve their vehicles after hours. It's interesting, and to tie it all back with text to pay, right, is you can do text to pay like you have, Chris, and 2/3 respondent, but you have to be careful about guaranteeing it. And the number one issue we're hearing with members right now is chargebacks, right? And Chris, you just mentioned you're in a group forum where they're talking about chargebacks relative to credit cards. And what I know, right, technically is they're dropping security features, right? You can't have any recorded lines. But how important do you think direct banking is and guaranteed payments are for text to pay, Chris?
Oh, I mean, it's huge. There's many text to pay features available for shops. But most of the people when it's not bank to bank like Facepay, their chargeback rates are high. So we really have cut back our traditional text to pay and solely just use Facepay for that, for the security, because the horror stories out there right now there's so many of them.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because we only had, if you would, merchant services at the counter paying with credit card and all chip cards, right? But now what's interesting is we build in the convenience. We're in a whole nother world, right? With text to pay and ways you get chargebacks and other issues relative to traditional forms of payment, right? Now, there are alternatives to it. You know, PayPal, Venmo, great, but you don't bring them in because the rates are higher, right? And then you go on direct bank payments, and this ties it all back to the beginning, which is profit lift. So customers are already using banks, and you're able to provide that, you know, direct banking to your customers as a way to retrieve their vehicles. It's a win. So, and then Koole, you talked about, right? It's directly keeps money from walking out the back door. So there you go. So I know we're at the end of our half hour for the webinar. I was going to look for if any of the attendees have questions you put in chat. And then maybe I'll start with you, Chris, any additional insight to share? And then you, Koole.
Yeah, so I got to know Mark as well as the other people at Facepay at the Super Conference. And the thought in the beginning was a little foreign to me until I really learned about it. And I remember the conversation. I actually went and talked to Koole at one of the showcases and got his opinion on it. And I really started to think about how much we were paying in credit card fees. I feel like as an industry, we're so focused on trying to be like Walmart or trying to be like Target. Yeah, accept whatever credit cards you want. You know, let's just be like everybody. And we don't really realize how much money we're spending. And when I realized how much we could save by just half of our customers using it was huge. I mean, it's thousands of dollars a month. You know, so that was really the kind of the eye-opening part for us to get on board with it. And it's been an awesome experience. It's easy, you know.
And maybe you just touched on, right, is that's what people don't realize is we're already using direct banking. We use the same platform by all of the payment providers. We just put into your workflow and charge subscription rather than transaction fees. Right. So it's the same service your customers are already doing. That's why you see these high sign-up rates. You just never offered it before. So appreciate your trust in us to offer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So Koole, any thoughts as we finish up here?
Stay on top of expense management. Just because you've been using someone or a specific service or been paying for a subscription for so long doesn't mean it's the best route, right? If you perceive your business as a blown up or a grand version of your home at home, right? We look at the cable bill and we say it's too high. What can I do to reduce that? A lot of folks, after the gas prices went up, you know, this is not even currently, like let's say 10 years ago, why are hybrid vehicles very big? Because they start looking at miles per gallon. This is one of those. So what can you do to offset merchant fees? These are options you should look at. On the flip side, because of a comment you made, Mark, when I was talking about how the retail world looks like out there, and you said 1/3 of the people viewing right now don't have these options. At a certain point, the convenience is going to be a problem. It's going to be a hurdle for folks to do business with you. The worst business I can think of, even though it's not really a business, is the DMV. At a certain point, folks are going to look at you like, this is visiting the DMV. I'm going to stand in line, have a conversation I didn't want to have. This should have been way easier than it should have been. So that's kind of a pain point for everybody, that how bad the DMV is. don't be your local DMV. Set yourself apart and make it easy for people to do business with you.
Don't be the DMV. So can I use that? That's you don't want to be, and you see it right up the street. I go have my car service with Dave Moderman, right? The shop's clean. I know I'm gonna get it in, easy to drop it off. It's hard to pick up. So stay with them on that. But that's why I pick him, right? Is I know that it's convenient, right? And I get there, and that's what separates shops from the others, and you got to stay ahead of it. What I appreciate, maybe wrap up with the topics we're talking about. It's minutes to get a night pickup box, right? That's keyed and you can leave keys in. Facepay actually takes minutes to set up, and there's a basic way. Our text to pay works with whatever you have. You can have Facepay set it up and running in 15 minutes. Sending out text, watching payments, right? We're that easy. We integrate with everything because we tender the same as cash as a tender type. Or if you'd like to integrate in the workflow, or Chris introduces it at check-in, that's where you drive results with 30 to 50% of your customers converting direct bank payments. That's where you want to be. That's a sweet spot. And that's a profit that's just walking out your back door. All right. So very informative. I learned a lot. Don't be the DMV. So with that, why don't we wrap up? Here's the emails for the panelists. Koole, I really appreciate you being here. I love working at the ATI. And you're back to the office, say hi to Jim. He's awesome. Right. Chris, we value our customers and the insight you give us, right, to make us better. We know you gave us features or simple insight that we've coded and released to customers. We just had our new Delighter release come out last month. So we're very excited by that. Just thank you. For all the attendees, go ahead.
Oh, no, we're good.
Thank you. And then for all the attendees, we'll be posting a video on YouTube after the webinar, so you can have replays and transcripts. So feel free to reach out to any of us three. Happy to share your insight. And then before I forget, Chris, you mentioned scripting, and on ATI member portal, you have scripts available for you for your workflow if you'd like to download those, or happy to reach out to Chris as well. So thank you. Thanks to everybody. I appreciate it. Have a good night for those on the East Coast, and good afternoon for everybody out here in the West. So awesome.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. You're welcome.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.